Hey, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. On my first episode, I shared with you my diagnosis of Crohn's disease. Today I want to share with you a little bit more details on my journey with Crohn's. In the last 24 years since my diagnosis, it's been a bit of a bumpy ride at times, but boy have I learned a lot. My hope in sharing with you my journey is, first of all, to let you know that you're not alone. Me and thousands others out there truly know what you're going through. We've been there, we've struggled, and we are here silently cheering you on. Secondly, I want you to know that no matter how sick you are now or how sick you have been, that you too can have vibrant health. So let's dive in. I was diagnosed at the age of 22 with Crohn's disease. Shortly after my diagnosis, things continued to get really bumpy. I went to see a specialist, which in my case was a gastroenterologist, in the hopes of getting some answers and possibly a clear path forward to health. Unfortunately, that was not the case for me. I was told that there are just some genetic components to my disease, but other than that, they didn't know the cause, and of course, there's no cure. I also learned that much of the standard of care for autoimmune diseases and other chronic diseases is more reactive than proactive. They may have a few things for maintenance, but ultimately it came down to waiting until I was more sick, and then they had things that they could do. I gotta be honest, I wasn't really thrilled with that idea. But this was all new to me, and so at that point, I was just a passenger along for a ride. Time and time again, the messaging that I got from the specialist was that food didn't matter. I couldn't wrap my head around this, especially since my particular autoimmune disease had to do with the bowels, with my digestive tract. But again, I took their word as law. They were the specialists. This was new to me. I'd never even heard of the disease until I was diagnosed with it. As time went on in that first year, I developed pain and swelling in my joints to the point where I even went to see a rheumatoid arthritis specialist. I didn't, of course, have rheumatoid arthritis, luckily for me, but my Crohn's, the inflammation from it, was attacking my joints. I even developed something called erythema nodosum, which I know sounds like something out of a Harry Potter movie, but it's not. It is sore, small, red lumps all over my body. I even got them on the bottom of my feet, and I couldn't walk at one point for almost 2 weeks. I got sores inside of my mouth, which made it extremely difficult to eat, and I often ended up having liquid diets for days at a time. And of course, I continued with the crippling bouts of pain. And eventually, I just kind of figured this was my new normal, and I was grateful for the days when I wasn't in crippling pain, even though most days came with fatigue, mild to severe, and brain fog. I wasn't clear, I wasn't able to articulate, I wasn't able to remember things like I used to. Carry on into the next year when things got even worse. At one point, I lost 30 pounds in 3 weeks. I was so ill, I finally ended up in the emerge again. And apparently I was so malnourished that they had to put something in called a TPN. A TPN is a total parenteral nutrition. It was basically an IV in the vein in my neck where they literally pumped fat into my body. After they got me plumped back up, they sent me home, and my specialist followed up, and I ended up going on 37 pills a day. It was so bad that we had a chart on the fridge so that I knew what pills I had to take when. And of course, in that cocktail of pills included Percocets, which I would take just so that I could get food down because it was so painful to do so. This didn't last long, as clearly I was extremely ill. So a few short weeks after that, I was back in the hospital again, and lo and behold, I was told I needed bowel resection surgery. The gastroenterologist that was on the schedule who did my surgery, lovely woman, said that she had never seen someone who was such a mess. And she was shocked that I hadn't actually gone into shock, that my bowels hadn't ruptured before I got there and she got a chance to get in and fix things up. I spent a few weeks in hospital recovering from that surgery. When I got home, my stitches opened up and I had to get a nurse come and pack them to avoid infection, which luckily we did. After all of this, I was ready to find my new normal. I was told that after surgery, things would get much better. So, I was very optimistic. I soon learned, however, that because of the scar tissue from my surgery, there was actually a narrowing in my bowels, and there were now foods I could no longer eat as they wouldn't digest, and I would end up in bouts of pain and now vomiting. So at this point, I decided to remove foods that gave me this acute reaction. And I noticed there were other foods that were giving me less severe reactions, and so I decided to remove those as well. I finally decided it was time to take a more active role in managing this disease. Things settled down and got close to normal for a little while. Fast forward to having my first child. Having a child is amazing, but if you've done it, you know it takes quite a toll on the body. And so as my body was recovering from having a child, my hormones were resettling back to normal, and the stress, of course, of being a new mom and going back to work, it was a lot, and my body was just not having it. I remember nights when my husband would go to work and I would be so sick that I would sleep on the floor beside my son's crib so that I could reach up and pull him down to nurse him because I was too sick even to sit up in the rocking chair with him. I would just pull a blanket over us there on the floor, and that's what we did. This didn't last too long before my husband and I realized that this really wasn't a sustainable or great way to be living. There had to be something better. So we went back to the specialist, and he said, yeah, he had the answer to our questions. It was biological drugs. Great. So we talked to him about the pros and cons, lots of great pros for sure. But the one thing that stopped us in our tracks was when we started to talk about the cons. We took out this nice little chart that had 4,999 happy faces and one sad face. Of course, we asked, why the sad face? And he said, well, there's a very small chance that you could get non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, cancer. Well, my husband and I decided that that was not a risk we were willing to take with my health. Not at this point. So now we were backed into a corner. Our choices were continued chronic pain or chance of cancer. We knew there had to be another way. And fortunately, my husband, who loves to talk to everyone, had come across someone who told him about this diet that apparently had helped other people with immune disorders. We figured, what have we got to lose? Let's give it a try. Though our specialist, our gastroenterologist, was not necessarily on board, as a team, we agreed that we were going to take 6 months to try it out. And if it didn't work and things stayed the same or got worse, we would be back and we would try it his way. Needless to say, it worked. I got better. Even 2 years later, when I went back for my scans, my colonoscopy and my MRI, it showed that in fact, I had decreased amounts of disease, decreased amounts of inflammation. So it was great news. Since then, I've learned so many more things about taking control of my health. And I've realized that what I thought back then was true. That while there are amazing doctors who have learned so much about so many different things that happen in our bodies, ultimately, I am the specialist of my body. I'm the one who's been living in it for all these years. I know how it reacts to different things. And so, in the end of the day, I'm going to make the call on what I feel is best for my body. I love to consult with doctors, but in the end of the day, I'm the one who makes the decisions because I am the one who is impacted by those decisions. And so I'm happy to say that through all these years, I have learned so much about ways to live a vibrant, healthy life. And so I'm here because I want you to know, I get it, I was there, and I want to help. I want to share my knowledge with you so that you too can live a vibrant, amazing, healthy life. I'm so excited for our future episodes, and I can't wait to share with you my tips and tricks for your best life. So let's get started and ignite your journey to health.